Josh, wait.
No.
Wait until after the video to burn the Blu-ray.
Fine. Hello there, boys and ghouls. Welcome to yet another fun-filled episode of Round the Clock Frights. Today, we're going to be talking about some shit. And we're not talking about the 2020 presidential race. We are going to be talking about the worst horror films that each of us have seen. Now, real quick, guys, before we get into our conversation, I'd like to point something out. I think especially in this day and age, audiences are a little bit quick to label something as the worst film they've ever seen. I'd like to rewind to the year 2016 because that year, me and Brian went to go see an A24 horror movie called The Witch. We went to a local movie theater and we sat with a good number of people. It was a pretty well-populated theater, and I swear, it was the most obnoxious, insane screening that I have ever been to. For one, in many people's eyes, The Witch is a good movie. You know, it's very atmospheric, but man, some of the audience reactions during that movie were so irritating that I almost got up and challenged someone to a fight. There were literally these dudes sitting a couple rows behind us, just screaming insults at the screen the entire time. You know, just saying a bunch of crap like, "This is the worst movie we've ever seen, this is a load of shit." Okay, here's the thing. If you don't like a movie like The Witch, I completely understand. You know, if it's not your thing, if it doesn't appeal to your better nature, but you can't call something as well made and artistic as The Witch the worst thing you've ever seen. There are literally a million other titles out there. So, you know, like I said, especially in this day and age, I think we're quick to label something as the worst thing that we've ever seen. So today, we're going to be talking about the movies that genuinely anger us to our cores and just make us want to give up on cinema altogether. So, guys, was it difficult to make your picks before we really get into the meat of the conversation?
Not really. My pick is terribly made, terribly acted. The plot is more convoluted than Planet 9.
Planet 9.
But without the charm. There's nothing, and the thing is it actually has some pretty big names at the time, so there's really no excuse.
Kim, was it difficult to make your choice?
It kind of was because I had quite a few movies in mind, but my pick, I definitely would have to stand by this one. Even though going in and seeing this film, I knew it was going to be just god-awful and a waste of my time.
we would like to point out that watching a bad horror movie can be enjoyable. You know, you sit down with your friends, you know, you have some drinks, and you just enjoy making fun of the movie. Something like Troll 2 or The Room, which I don't even know why I put a DVD. I don't even know
because
why.
It's the worst movie ever.
I put a DVD copy. Well, I guess you could call it a horror movie. I mean, seeing Tommy Wiseau's naked, flat ass on camera isn't exactly the most comforting sight in the entire world. So, I will go ahead and do the quote-unquote honors. As you saw in the opening of this video, the single worst horror movie that I have ever seen is Halloween 2.
Are you a giant?
Now, the secret behind his madness will finally be revealed.
Only a river of blood can bring us together again.
Now, I have talked about this in videos prior. I actually did a video a couple years ago called Worst Horror Sequels, and I went into detail about why Rob Zombie's magnum opus is the worst. It's not even just the worst horror movie I've ever seen, honestly. This movie angers me to such an unfathomable degree that I have no problem in calling it the worst film that I've ever seen. But because I have talked about it before, I'm going to do at least one runner-up. So, have you guys seen this cinematic masterstroke?
Seen it, did not like it. I'm not really a big fan of Rob Zombie's aesthetic. I know that some people are. And I was initially when he redid Halloween, and he was talking about finding that origin story and that backstory and why this young kid, did what he did. I was looking forward to, maybe a little bit of plumbing the depths, but it just turned nonsensical. And then Halloween 2 was even worse. He was trying to do something like High Tension and failed miserably.
Kim, have you seen this one?
I have not seen that one.
Have you ever sat down to watch this just pure masterpiece?
No, I haven't, but from your talks on it, I kind of want to see it, just to see how bad it is.
I just want to say I have nothing against Rob Zombie as a person or even as a filmmaker. I respect that he has his own grungy grindhouse style, and I've actually liked some of his previous works. I didn't mind House of a Thousand Corpses. I didn't mind the Devil's Rejects. I haven't seen his new film, 3 from Hell. There was a film he did a few years ago called 31, which the majority of that film was very annoying and just unpleasant, but it did feature a terrific villain performance by Richard Brake.
Oh, by the way, the doors to the outside world are now officially open.
A very underrated actor. He was the Night King in season 5 of Game of Thrones, but he just brings so much intensity to that role. But anyway, real quick, Halloween 2. As I've said, this movie violates so many of my personal preferences. I have a list of rules when it comes to watching horror movies. There are certain things horror movies must contain in order for me to enjoy them. This movie contains none of those things. For one, every single character in this movie is just downright unpleasant and unlikable. Starting with Scout Tara Compton as Laurie Strode. I'm sure she's a very nice woman in real life, but her Laurie Strode in this movie comes across as a spoiled party girl. She is constantly whining, constantly screaming. She always treats other characters like shit. There's even a scene where she is putting down Margot Kidder, who was playing her psychiatrist. And another thing, the cinematography is just ugly and murky. The editing is just choppy, and with the action scenes, I could barely tell what was going on at times. There's a very heartwarming bit where Michael Myers eats the heart of a dead dog, and just everything else. I mean, trying to show us the inside of Michael Myers' mind, trying to show us his psyche, I thought was completely unnecessary. It was the same shit that some of the later Halloween sequels tried to do, and just Halloween 2. I talked about it before. That's all I want to say in this video. Real quick, I do have one runner-up, and my runner-up is the cult classic Christmas horror film, Silent Night, Deadly Night, Part 2.
Aww!
By weapon. Victim by victim. The terror's coming home, and he's all grown up. Silent Night, Deadly Night, Part 2.
And for our viewing audience, would you like to do your impersonation of the Garbage Day scene?
No, that's okay.
Fine, I'll do it. Garbage Day! That is the quality of acting in this film, because some background on Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2. The lead actor, I can't remember his name, but he was actually second in line when it came to casting the main character. The producers were stuck between him and this other actor. This other actor actually had much more experience. He had more credits to his name. But the reason they ultimately went with this schmuck was because he was much more handsome and photogenic. And it ended up in a performance that is very cringeworthy. It is what I call an eyebrows performance. Almost every single line of dialogue, he is raising his eyebrows. Just, every inflection, every word he says is just over dramatic. It's like William Shatner on steroids.
But with his eyebrows.
But with his eyebrows, yes. And, 70% of the movie, they just used footage from the first Silent Night, Deadly Night, because they didn't have enough coverage. They couldn't fill out the runtime, so much of the movie is just us rewatching scenes from the first film. And it's just god-awful. There is one amusing bit where he kills a character with an umbrella, no lie. He sticks an umbrella into this guy's chest, and then once it's protruding out his backside, he actually opens the umbrella.
Oh my goodness, it's terrible.
It's so terrible. So those were my two picks. Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2. It just it's a cinematic abortion, to say the least. So now, I think I've had my say. So, Thor, what was your pick?
Okay, so my pick is kind of an older movie. I really liked the slasher films of the 80s. That's when I kind of first fell in love with horror and stuff like that. But there was a movie called Evils at Night.
My boob! What's the matter with this pair, Buster?
Nothing. Oh, no.
What was that?
I don't know.
It was released in 1985, 86. It's starring John Carradine, Julie Newmar, Tina Louise. So we're talking about some pretty impressive names right there.
Julie Newmar was Catwoman, right?
Yes. And it is the biggest piece of crap in the world.
What's the plot of this movie?
Okay, so hold on, because you're going to start going, what? Okay, so you have your typical slasher. You've got kids going to the lake and, that kind of thing. You've got these two mechanics who go and kidnap the kids from the lake to deliver to aliens who need to drain them of their youthful essence by draining them of blood over a period of time in order to keep themselves young. The mechanics are also serial killers, so the people that they don't turn over to the aliens, they kill themselves. Then there is the legend of another killer at the lake that nobody ever hears from again, other than it's a story told to frighten people. But it sets it up like that's going to be the killer, but you never hear any of that again. And then the mechanics come and kill people and kidnap people, and yeah.
When you first described this movie to me, you called it the Room of the horror genre.
I did.
So what else about it just makes it that unbearable to watch? It sounds amazing.
It would be if it steered into it and was like, you know what, hell, this is cheesy as fuck, and we're just gonna go for it. Mm-hmm. If they did that, or something like had the charm of Planet 9.
Planet
9, whatever. That would be okay. The acting is terrible. The plot shifts it's like they took 3 movies and put them together. The cinematography is terrible. I mean, just everything about this is terrible. The first scene, you have these 2 girls and these 2 guys at the lake. These 2, one girl and one guy, are boyfriend and girlfriend, and these 2 are being introduced by their friends.
Of course.
The boyfriend and girlfriend go off to the lake, while the 2 who just met stay on the side of the lake with a blanket and stuff.
They're gonna watch the sunset. It sounds very innocent.
No. Then the 2 in the lake, the girl is going down on the guy, stays down there for an impressive amount of time. Problem is the water is here at the guy's chest and her head is like right here, so I'm wondering
would you say
how that works?
Would you say they got very wet in that scene?
I would say that it was about as well coordinated as the scenes in the room. And then suddenly the 2 that are on the blanket end up having sex. They just met, but whatever. And the girl is kind of like, here's the guy and here's the girl, and they're doing this kind of thing. And the killer comes by, and I'm guessing it's the mechanics. I don't know because it could be the killer from the story at the campfire, but. And this guy gets his head cut off, and this girl's still trying to get to a climax and finish up. Well, this guy's head is not there anymore.
It sounds very similar to my prom night, actually. I'm not gonna lie, I think I have a lot in common with this movie.
And you can totally tell that it's the angle of the camera that's allowing it to kind of, that kind of thing. But the camera's off, so you can totally see it's going by the side.
How did you discover this movie?
Okay, so I was on Amazon Prime, which you can still watch this movie on Amazon Prime. I was on Amazon Prime, and one night I was just bored, and I'm like going, This has 1 star. I have not seen, actually, I think at the time it had a half star. I have never seen anything on Amazon Prime with a half star. I was curious.
So your curiosity got the better of you.
Oh my God, yes.
She now understands why I was a half a star.
You're just filled with so much regret and anger.
Not anger, more like that was a waste of time, and to be honest, I'm going to make you and Brian watch it in revenge.
What's the runtime?
It's about an hour and a half.
Oh, I just wanted to ask because I need to know how much more time I have on this earth before I want to kill myself.
This movie, honestly, there's nothing redeeming about it, and the problem is that I saw it, and I'm like, half star, John Carradine, Julie Newmar, what? Mm-hmm. Not even. I watched it.
So, Evils of Night?
So it is, the title is Evils of the Night.
So, Evils of the Night sounds like a really fun time.
It also has Aldo Ray in it, who was an old movie star with Bogart and that kind of era, and he's in this, and I'm just like, what the hell happened?
When you say Aldo Ray, I was just reminded of Brad Pitt's character in Inglourious Basterds. His name was Aldo Rain.
Right, Aldo Ray was styled off of Aldo Ray. Aldo Ray was a very masculine actor back in the Bogart, Cary Grant era. So if you've ever seen We're No Angels, he's the hot prison.
So that is Thor's #1 pick. Do you have any dishonorable mentions?
Too many to name, to be honest, but this one just is so far and away worse than anything else I've ever seen.
Can you think of any titles right off the bat? I think we might have one right here. Have you ever seen Troll 2?
I've seen Troll 2. It's fun. At least that one's fun.
So you get some entertainment value.
Right. I mean, it's so terrible. It's like one of those, it's terrible, so you sit there and you make fun of it all night.
And you can't piss on hospitality. I won't allow it!
What are you going to do to me, Daddy?
Tightening my belt by 1 loop so I don't feel hunger pains. And your sister and mother will have to do likewise.
And now we move on to Kim's choice. I'm very excited to see what you brought for us here today. So, Kim, what is the #1 worst horror movie that you've ever seen besides Twilight?
Okay, well, Twilight wasn't that bad, but...
Disco balls are not vampires.
I would have to say the #1 worst horror movie I've seen would be The Devil Inside.
Oh.
This is a combination of science and religion based on my background in medicine.
Let's begin.
Isabella. She said my name.
I found 4 voices on the recordings.
What does that mean?
Multiple demonic possession.
Please help my mother.
This isn't consistent with any form of possession that I've ever seen. I'm sorry, Isabella.
So, basically, I went into watching this movie already knowing that it was probably going to be just awful. I'm like, okay, well, you know what? At the time, I was working at a movie theater, kept getting people coming out of the theater, just demanding their refunds. I'm like, okay, let me just go and check out why everybody is just not liking this movie. And to be honest, it was definitely a waste of... I wouldn't say waste of my money because I was getting free movies at the time, but a waste of my time.
There was a period after Paranormal Activity was released where every filmmaker wanted to make the next Paranormal Activity. They wanted to make something very cheap that they could cash in.
So many found footage.
Yes.
It was ridiculous.
It was like a herd of elephants, coming at your face. It was just a non-stop flux of terrible found footage horror movies.
And see, the thing is that the one that started it all, Blair Witch, you had a couple after it, but it quickly fizzled out.
It was just like they were trying to make it, I don't know, after the Paranormal Activity movies, they were trying to make one better than the other, but it was just completely failing.
I mean, tell me, you can tell me if you disagree, but I think the thing that makes good found footage horror movies like The Blair Witch Project or The Last Broadcast or Paranormal Activity is their subtlety. They leave a lot up to your imagination. They don't explicitly show you what's going down on screen. So with something like The Devil Inside, which doesn't pull any punches, they basically show you everything. There's not much tension in the movie. They throw everything at your face. It just gets obnoxious, and the ending of The Devil Inside.
That was what really frustrated me the most, was the ending of that movie. Like, it was like you're sitting there watching it and you're trying to like this movie, and it's like you just can't, because everything was bad about it. Like, the acting was horrible, and it was like just some of the what do you call it, the special effects and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was just like, then the ending comes and you got this, the car that comes out and gets hit, and all of a sudden it's like, it's done. It's like, wait, that's it. And then you get the little thing that pops up on there. That
one of the biggest middle fingers to an audience ever. It just cuts to black. We get this lame title screen that says, "This case was never solved. Please visit www.wehateyouaudience.com."
Like, what?
Like, they actually had the balls to not give us a proper conclusion.
Yeah.
It was like they just got lazy and said, you know what, I can't think of an ending, so here you go.
Either that, or they really, really wanted that foot traffic.
If you want to, if you want to see a decent found footage horror movie that wasn't exactly subtle, but it still had very likable characters and a creepy atmosphere, there was a movie called The Taking of Deborah Logan, which came out a few years ago.
Okay.
Basically, they're interviewing this old woman who has some sort of brain disease. And the whole movie, they question, is she just sick, or is she actually possessed by this monster? And, like I said, it's not exactly the most subtle movie, but it does have some effective scares. And yeah, The Devil Inside just completely failed on all counts.
See, and I completely agree with you when it comes to with the found footage, it's what you don't see. One of the most effective found footages was The Blair Witch Project. You never saw anything.
We'll see.
And because of that, you did not need like the special effects and everything else like that. For me, Paranormal Activity didn't have as much tension as Blair Witch Project did.
And not to sound like a hardened cynic, but like this generation needs, everything explained to them. They can't watch a movie like The Blair Witch Project, which is incredibly subtle, and leave satisfied, because they need everything spelled out for them. Mm-hmm. Which, I'm sure like millions of other people have said this already, but it just makes me appreciate those subtle found footage horror movies much more. Mm-hmm. But The Devil Inside, I can imagine, Kim, you pretty much had a very frustrated reaction.
Yeah, and then I started understanding why everybody was coming out and demanding a refund.
You guys may not. You guys may not get this reference, but I think each of us, after watching these movies, we were a lot like Stan and Kenny in that one episode of South Park where they went to go see The Passion of the Christ, and they just say, "Wow, that movie sucks."
Dude, that movie sucked.
So what were your honorable mentions?
Besides The Devil Inside, I would have to say the remake of The Hills Have Eyes.
Okay.
And the remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, yeah. They had such an opportunity with Jackie Earle Haley. He has such an amazing voice, and then they just didn't use him.
I was actually looking on the back of this Blu-ray to see if Platinum Dunes, the same studio that made the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, I was actually looking to see if they did this movie as well, and I don't think they did. But yeah, Platinum Dunes is responsible for a host of terrible remakes. They also did the 2003 Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh.
That's the reaction they usually expect.
Well, the first one had, this is the thing with a lot of the remakes and a lot of the terrible movies that we have nowadays. And you look back at the movies that we used to have and you're like, oh my gosh, why aren't they like these anymore? It's because those movies had a deeper meaning. It wasn't just about the slasher. That slasher or what they were going through represented something greater. So like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it was all about the war and dealing with the Vietnam War and the brutality and the dehumanizing effects of everything that was going on during that time. Freddy was about confronting fear. Michael was about your past and how you can't run from it. Jason was, the oncoming storm, that unavoidable, unescapable death, nature incarnate. It had a deeper meaning, and because of that, we were able to tap into it better. Blair Witch, it's about the unknown, what you can't see.
They were very symbolic.
Yeah, and movies now, they're like, ooh, I know what we need. Instead of story, more blood.
Okay, I mean, I think you're thinking of the majority of the studio films, which I
Yes.
definitely agree with, but if you go outside the studio system and you look at some of the more independently made horror movies, like there have been some really good ones in recent years. There was The Witch.
Which was really good. Babadook.
The Babadook.
But Babadook had that greater meaning. It was about how mental illness can affect the rest of the family and affect yourself and, all those kinds of things. So it had that greater meaning. The Witch had you cannot watch The Witch and not see the symbolism.
There was also a really, really terrific independent horror movie made over a decade ago, and it was called The Room. Just filled with scares. I mean, just all across the board. I mean,
He loves that movie way too much.
You just get everything in this movie. It really just tears you apart.
You are tearing me apart, Lisa!
He
From
makes
the
us
inside
watch
out.
it every New Year's Eve.
It's a tradition. So, there you have it. Those are our picks for the worst horror movies that we have each seen. So, until the month of October, we don't really have any new releases to talk about. But we are going to give you some more horrific content here very soon. We're going to talk it out amongst ourselves. And also, we have something very special planned for the month of October. We're actually putting together a new opening for Round the Clock Frights. We're very excited to film that. It's a parody of a very famous horror TV show that was released in recent years. So we're going to be starting production on that soon. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us in our discussion. If you like this,
Subscribe.
if you like this, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Round the Clock Frights. We are growing every day, but we would love to have your support as well. Have a very scary night, boils and ghouls, and watch out for Tommy Wisso's ass.